It's January 25th, 2022. I'm sorry, yeah, 2022. I'm sitting in Linda's room on a chair trying to watch television about what they're going over and what they're updating this morning. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about the Chatham Tanning. Chatham Tanning. I have a problem dyslexia-wise with his name, so I don't mean to insult, but the movie Dog, from the synopsis only, not that I've seen the actual movie. I don't get invited to premieres or whatever that the Hollywood box office does. So he, I'm thinking about both 1976 and 1975, because both of them should have never been, and both of them have big paper with me, but not because of what the humans qualify it or legally use it for. It's for very different reason when you are in the middle of a area that is changing demographically. You never know what's coming into an area or not. And you have several blackout scenarios where you've been drugged and wind up. Like, you follow innocently enough these people you're supposed to trust, white guys, and then all of a sudden you wake up or you go down and you can't even, and then now you're supposed to put your life in their hands. They're not qualified. I know for sure. My problem with Tia Frio, 1975, is that no matter how many years I am left with him close to me, which should be zero based on where he's dragged me, situations he's dragged me into and left me to die, or he would, whatever. There was one situation where he went down and they dragged him out to a vehicle, and then I was left alone and I started to panic because I don't know anybody. I arrived with him, and even though, again, this gets into a really dangerous conversation, but the reason why I get so angry, like, his version of me is very different. His version of me is that I get very angry, I get very snappy, but only towards him, not towards the kids, because he is an insult to my intelligence. And that is the most pure diagnostic of psychology I could possibly give you. It is a person I don't want to be with. I did not want tailing me. I did not want hanging onto my purse. I did not want changing the course of my future. I did not want to call my children his children, ever. I did not want to be put in situations where I could possibly be harmed, going into something innocently enough thinking it was a business transaction for real estate, maybe possibly leading me back to where I belong. God forbid he actually does the right thing and introduces me back to Eric. So it really, at a 107 level and a Reagan 75 level, Tiafrio 75 is, that's my problem, is that he is just an insult to my intelligence, because if you ask him my personality, all he knows of me is me, I'm calm because I'm matter of facts. No Tiafrio, it's this. And most of the time I don't even correct him, I just let him go off. I'm like, is that the way you see it? Because I don't care. And then all of a sudden, if there's, like, if somebody's going to question me, now it becomes a totally different story. Because now I'll tell you what it really is. But that's the problem with a tag along, is that I get angry at him. I've thrown his clothes out of my house. I've told him to leave. He just won't. So now, there's a, it's like you can live with somebody and not know the person ever at all because they don't open up. They don't talk. They don't open up. They're there. But it's like the game of a lone survivor because you're just, or it's really just the movie alone, but other moving figures around you. I mean, you just don't talk. I've got nothing to say. I'm not in the right life frame. I know planetary is off. I know geospatially I am off. I know that the situations around me is off. I know that like this looks like a medical park to me where everybody's getting stuck with disease and there's no opportunity because whatever. Because you see things differently. So it's a different thing. So the anger is a derivative of an insult to an, if you go back to anime, body machina, and logical programming, the only time you see me get heated or upset is when my intelligence is insulted by one of the whatever that was quantumly strung wrong. But that's at like a cosmic astrological knowledge of I know I belong to the family, the forever family. I know I have a forever family. In fact, in 2001, I had a forever family member sit on a bar stool drinking water and had a very interesting conversation with me right after Benjamin arrived. And I said to him right there, I said, let's go. He said, if I told you right now I wanted to take you home with me and I wanted to keep you safe, and he showed me some special whatever, I said, and he said, but what about Jason? You have Jason at home. I go, I don't like him. I don't want him. I don't like him. I don't like this scenario. I don't like anything about my daily life. I just want to leave. I want to go. And he's like, well, I'm from your forever family. And I said, okay, I want to go with you. I do not want to be here with this Jason. And so, and that was, Peter and Sarah brought me to that meeting, who worked at Merrill Lynch. But here we are. Not only did I have wasted every portion waiting for Forever Family to come back and be able to unlock whatever they have to unlock in order to get me out of here, after it was already set on some dangerous whatever. And then today I'm watching COVID and I'm watching all of these people, and there's somebody who's a newspaper photographer in this area in Bayside Station. The newspapers are really gone. I mean, I don't have money to pay for a subscription to Newsday or the New York Post or any of that stuff, but I don't even see them being displayed. I don't hear them being talked of. I don't know where the newspaper industry went, or if they knocked out that industry too with all this digital media garbage. But there was an interesting story on this morning, two of them on this program, where they mention people's favorite masks and their manufacturers, where they come from. So they had brand names, and they also show a photographer that was a newspaper photographer with a real camera, not one of the smart devices. And he journaled for some special public service project inside the hospital, some of the hardest hit, whatever, between the nursing staff and the patients. And I'm looking at his work, and New York's hospitals are very different, just saying. From your documentation to mine, I've been in New York hospitals. it is a very different scene than what you've been documenting. Just so whoever collects for public service, whatever, knows that there is a skewed picture of the healthcare between South Carolina and New York at the moment.
Pretty music. Welcome back to CBS Mornings. Over the past 2 years, the most serious effects of the COVID pandemic have happened mostly behind closed doors or in private homes and hospitals, where more than 800,000 Americans have died. Think about that number for just a second. And many more have been sick. This morning, we have the story of a remarkable nurse who documented part of the enormous human toll in photographs. Our lead national correspondent, David Begnaud, is here. And this really is remarkable, is a word to describe what this man has done.
Really powerful. It's a privilege to follow him within the last week. Good morning to all of you. You know, as you probably know, my team and I have been covering COVID since the start of the pandemic. And invariably, wherever we are around the country, there's a nurse or a doctor who will say to us, if only the public could see what we see. Alan Hawes gives us that chance. When Alan Hawes goes to work at the Medical University of South Carolina in Charleston, he brings with him a special ability, a talent really, that he uses when he cares for the sickest of the sick COVID patients. He takes pictures of what you and I would usually never see. Because before he became a nurse 11 years ago, he spent 23 years as a newspaper photographer. And that gives him the ability to tell the stories of these patients.
This is a gentleman named Ryan Simpson. We had to send him emergently to our cardiac ICU.
And y'all believe COVID is what damaged the heart so severely?
Oh yeah, his heart was beating so fast for many days that
How fast?
135 to 165.
Now, those are different symptoms than what they are saying COVID is in New York. In New York, it's more like a common cold, but I guess their severity, it's very unclear.
Preparing to take him to the operating room.
So many frontline workers have said to us, if only the public could see what we see. Well, Alan Hawes convinced the largest hospital in South Carolina to allow him to give sight to what those caregivers routinely see.
This is a woman who was very sick. She was with us for a long, long time, and her family brought in this prayer cloth.
The family wasn't able to visit, but this prayer cloth
Yes.
was sort of their representative.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened to the lady?
She didn't make it.
His pictures document COVID's grip as it tightens.
And he was totally there. As you can see, he's texting people on his cell phone, telling them what's going on.
But why did you want to capture this?
I felt like I knew where he was going.
And what happened?
This is what happened.
Oh,
So 2 days later, I walked in and there he was.
vaccinated?
He is unvaccinated.
So you're now at a place, if I'm hearing you right, where you're like, say la vie, it is what it is. Don't want to get vaccinated, wind up here.
I have quite a few times had a patient who's unvaccinated, and I'll think to myself, you did this to yourself. But that doesn't last long.
And that's not the right answer either for caretaker's disease.
Once you hear the stories of some of our patients from their family members, you can become a fan of that person, and you just know that they made a bad decision.
You humanize them.
Yeah,
You're mad at them when they come in the door, and then you start to find out who they are.
I've had some really hard times with that. I mean, nurses are broken right now, emotionally.
Are you?
I feel like I am, yes.
How long did you have to work over the hospital to get permission to do this?
1.5 years. Yeah, I think the time when I got approval to do the project, I titled my email Public Service Project. And I think that's what made the difference.
Every time he gets permission to photograph, either from the patients or their family members.
I think people have a message that they want to get out there.
The mother holding a picture of the newborn she can't touch. The girlfriend who keeps a bedside journal. Stephen James Lavender, you know that I love you with all of my heart and soul. You better not ever leave me.
Every night, I tell all my patients, all my family members, this is a roller coaster. This is 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
This is Alan's colleague, a nurse. He's triple vaccinated, but a lifelong asthma patient. With all due respect, this is one example where a picture doesn't actually do it justice.
No, it doesn't. This is a picture where I was like, man, I wish I had video.
Give me a second. Oh, yeah, you slow down. Well, our producer was in the room with the video camera.
Breathe in. I don't need anything else exacerbated anymore.
I do wonder whether some people are going to be like, put that camera down and pay attention, just like full-time nurse.
Yeah, well, when I'm doing that, they're not my patients. I don't take pictures of my own patients. Can you open
They have now with me. I don't have, thank God, luckily I don't have. I sometimes it's hard to catch the breath as you're walking, but I know from my own personal area, it's a gravitational pull issue with tidal and barometric pressure with my inside intercostals and my lungs ability. But that goes back to we're in a hunchback almost facility where you can't even pull yourself back because the gravity is just pulling you down towards your feet. So, and it's not something consciously you think of, but I used to try to like pull myself when I wasn't as saturated with plasmatic problems with adipose. I would hold myself back and I'd be able to, for shorter times, I could hold myself upright, my shoulders back, my shoulders in. I remember my Ziada when I was little, stand up straight, keep your head up. And so, I mean, I know that that's how it's supposed to be. It's just, it's like a collapsing universe. It's a collapsing environment where it is falling in on you in geospatial and it is pushing you into these origamic ways that are so unhealthy and unnatural. And it is so hard to even take deep breaths, to even, to move is difficult. And that's a really scary thing from my part of COVID, of where what I'm experiencing, what I personally, my body, because again, in a reincarnate, I know as a child, I was as skinny as my son with no adipose whatsoever. And I was able to hold my head up. I was able to keep my shoulders back. And the walk was very different through the atmosphere and the climate. Now, it's like the settings on the machine changed and it's just, it's a lot of weight to bear is what it feels like. And it feels like you're always trying to struggle against the grain in order to like get your movement back and get your health and agility back. I'm going to pause this for a second because it's getting longer. I want to find the mask bit. Hang on.
We all wear them. We're all sick of them. Of course, we're talking about masks. So what are we going to do this morning? We're going to take a close look at which masks offer the best protection against COVID. The CDC recommends those layered masks like the N95 and notes that a snug fit is very crucial. But with so many masks on the market, it can be very, very confusing. We asked people in Los Angeles, what do they look for in a good mask?
The most important thing I look for when I'm picking a mask is the amount of protection that it's going to give.
Los Angeles, California, opposite coast, Pacific coast.
I prefer to wear a surgical mask. They're disposable. I don't have to worry about washing them so often.
Preferably surgical masks because I feel like they're a lot more safer and more reliable.
I don't really care about design as long as it's comfortable to wear for the whole day out in public.
I prefer to wear a cloth mask or a disposable mask because they're easy to just make sure that they're clean.
I look for it to be comfortable and I look for the mask to cover my face accordingly and let me breathe correctly.
It must have comfortable straps. Yeah.
I'm not going to pick a mask based on, how cool it looks or how cute it looks. It's not a fashion statement, it's a health statement.
Very good point, sir. Q. Aaron Collins, a self-described mask nerd. He is an aerosol scientist, so on his YouTube channel, Collins tests masks in his home laboratory and rates their ability to filter out the aerosols. Aaron Collins, we're happy to say, joins us this morning. Good to see you, Aaron Collins. I love your story. You just started doing this on your own, and you got a lot of pickup on your YouTube channel because you certainly seem to know what you're talking about. So take us through, what are you looking for and what makes a good mask?
Yeah, I think the most important aspects of a mask are kind of three things, and a lot of those people in LA hit on it. It's about filtration, it's about fit, and it's about comfort. And so what we talk about when we talk about masks is we want to see all three of those things. So some people have talked about the surgical mask, so that features the filtration and has that melt-blown layer, so it has that good technology that we have. But the problem with surgical masks, they kind of lack the fit. And so there's other mask designs like KN95s that feature that fit, or KF94s that also feature fit. And of course the N95, we're all familiar with that. This is a cup style, also features that good tight fit.
So it's not true. You heard one guy say, look, as long as it covers your nose and your mouth, you're okay. That's certainly not the truth.
It's certainly not the best mask, but I will always say that the mask you're wearing is better than no mask at all. So at least they're on that first part of that.
So, Aaron, you mentioned KN95, N95, surgical. Those are types of masks, but are there brands that people can sort through, and which do you like?
Yeah, so, in KN95, that's the Chinese mask test standard. So I'm a big fan of the Palcom here, KN95, but there's also, US-made KN95s, which is a little weird because of our regulatory system. Like BNX, they're really cool. There's tons of great N95 options out there. I'm a big fan of the 3M Aura series. You can get these at Home Depot, the 9205 Plus. This is a great mask, great protection, good fit. It's very comfortable to wear. And then there's also the KF94, and the KF94 is the South Korean standard. It's their general population mask standard. They designed it for what would you have to do if you had a pandemic and you needed to mask everyone. They were kind of ahead of us in some ways. So it looks like, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, continue.
Oh, I was going to say, so the KF94, it features this kind of cool boat shape, and then the difference between, KN95s and N95s are these feature ear loops, like these KF94 and K95, and then N95 is always going to feature headbands. So that's a good, easy way to know what are the differences between those masks.
Aaron, I was just going to reassure any of our viewers at home who are feverishly trying to write down these names, which are not familiar, that I'm confident we will put them on our website. And I do also wonder, how do people know that what they're buying online is a genuine article and not a counterfeit?
That's a great question. So in general, in the N95 space, if you purchase from big box retailers or direct from the manufacturer, you want to go to Amazon, just make sure it's shipped by and sold by the direct supplier. So if it's shipped and sold by Amazon, in the case of 3M, you're going to get a 3M mask. The KN95 space is a little bit tougher. So what I recommend is looking for the labeling requirements. So the KN95 standard requires you to label both the manufacturer, the standard it's tested against, a bunch of numbers, because as engineers, it says GB 2626-2019. And it should also label KN95 on there. So you want to see all three of those things on the mask. That's a good indication that they're at least following the labeling standards.
All right, Aaron Collins, I'm looking at my KN95 here. It does, in fact, have the GB 2626, so well done to my wife, Katie Tur. You ordered some legitimate items. I appreciate that. And we appreciate you walking through all this. As I said, the details will be on our website. Aaron Collins, thank you very much.
See, now that's incredibly interesting because the masks that are being ordered from, again, I don't have a catalog on what the heraldry and lineage and safety protocols. Now people are doing things through Amazon. But that goes back to, why can't we just walk into stores and buy things and have the oversight committee protect us from, because it gets overwhelming of who are these products coming from, where are they being manufactured, it's like the $100 bill in the school. Why are you giving this to me? What comes along with this? I mean, it gets really frightening. And then in my area I don't have high school alumni, whatever, because my high school looked like a compromised facility. And there's no communication between me and St. John's Prep at all. There's no college graduation, so there's no alumni there to stay in touch with. There's no jobs. When it ended, it was okay, so here's your stuff, go. I mean, it's not like you stay in contact with the employer. So how do you stay on top of this? So, I mean, I know there's regulation, but that's at corporate level. I don't know what human level is up to. and how you stay on top of this stuff. Again, I'm not scholarly and learned or educated in the sense of there's been no building of a structured way. I mean, it literally is like being sucked through a black hole. But I mean, that goes through, like, no, and then, I mean, it's so confusing to try to negotiate through this conversation. But it's just negotiating with myself at this point because there's just, I don't know what else to do. As far as masks go, what are they trying to keep out? They don't explain that. Do I really need a surgical mask? Is it really the air quality? What's in the air? What did they find? What are the results? How do you know? That stuff doesn't come through. It's just wear a mask. Right. No, why? What, like, is there something going on in a bigger thing? Right, there's COVID. Got it. Well, where does COVID start from? Where does it come from? Is it like an atmosphere related thing? Is it something that just the biology just snaps genes on and off and now it becomes a problem? I mean, again, it's so epidermal and there's other things. I mean, it's just so confusing. But this is the same thing. It's like, it really, I mean, the only diagnostic tool I have is myself. And since youth, it was okay for a little bit. But once high school started, it got into a really messy situation with the humans. And I know the more pressing cosmic law is off. But it's like these lesser order, whatever, pulled off the higher order necessity in keeping planetary safety and keeping us aligned within solar system at like celestial and equinox level of importance. But to function in this level of it's like abandonment is really what it feels like, which is better than being other things that could possibly, which I don't even want to think about, but let's just say at the moment I'm socially distancing, so I'm complying with whatever that rule took effect or guideline took effect. I don't even know. But there's some telltale signs that when I sit and I think quietly, I know I see them based on teleportation, the little that you get there, and what's going on in the local neighborhood. There's just nobody to really communicate with that is at a, like, not insulting my intelligence. And that's the thing about Diafreo is the story constantly changes. The 1975 one. And there's just no trust. You can't, I mean, I can't. When somebody insults your intelligence that deeply with telling you one thing, but they're acting in another way, and then it's just wrong.